What if Darth Vader survived and rebuilt the Jedi Order? Let's start the story on the second Death Star. Vader has just betrayed Palpatine and thrown him down the reactor shaft to his death. In the original timeline, this critically damaged Vader's life support system and he ultimately died on the Death Star. However, in this story, we're going to have Luke pull Vader to safety on his own Imperial Lambda class shuttle, Vader's personal ship, and hook him up to the life support mechanisms on board. They successfully escape before the rebels destroyed the Death Star and win the Battle of Endor and ultimately defeat the Empire. Luke landed a ship down on Endor and celebrated with the rest of the rebels on the surface. However, his mind was constantly pulled towards his father, alive on their ship in the forest. He was always faithful. There was still good in his father, and he had proved it after Vader killed the Emperor. In the coming days, the New Republic took over the Imperial Senate and bureaucracy on Coruscant to establish the New Republic. Key Imperials are arrested and sent to prison. However, not everyone could be arrested because they needed the numbers and connections to form a stable government. Mon Mothma became the Chief of State alongside lead members of the Rebel Council to form the New Republic Council, such as Leia, Admiral Akbar, Hera Syndulla, Garmbao Iblis, Borsk Failure, and many more. Meanwhile, instead of going to Coruscant, Luke brought Vader to Dagobah, the site of Yoda's death. It took a few days, but Vader's suit has recovered and his life support system has been restored. Here, Luke and Vader really got to talk about the past and get to know each other. They sat outside their ship on the logs of fallen trees, a fire crackling between them. Vader starts by thanking Luke that neither Ahsoka nor Obi-Wan could bring him back, that he was the only one who could. However, it was far too late. He had already done so many horrible things, and he asked Luke how he could possibly redeem himself. Luke tells Vader he already has with the defeat of the Emperor, but here on out, they need to look forward. But Luke asks Vader something that no one has told him about, his mother. Vader pauses, muttering her name, Padme, and tells Luke he'll take him back to the very beginning. Vader spends hours talking, taking Luke through his life, growing up without a father, being a slave on Tatooine, being found by Qui-Gon, Obi-Wan's master, and ultimately meeting his mother Padme, the love of his life. But at the same time, Palpatine got his claws into Anakin when he arrived at the Jedi Temple, alone and vulnerable. They discuss Palpatine's rise to power, becoming Chancellor, the Jedi now essentially under his control, his alliance with Count Dooku, creating the clone army with the inhibitor chips, and forcing the Jedi to fight in his fabricated war, as well as the details of the end of the war, his nightmares of Padme dying, the Jedi's reluctance to help, Palpatine's promises of the power to save her. Vader broke down in tears, explaining it all, and Luke couldn't help but feel sorry for his father. However, Vader does tell Luke that the rise of Palpatine was also the Jedi's fault, and they failed to stop him because of their own weakness. The Order had become too political, tied itself too closely to the Republic, and served as generals and enforcers instead of guardians, and ultimately confused loyalty to the state with loyalty to the Force. Luke tells Vader that together they can right the wrongs of the old Jedi, create a new order, and lead the next generation of Force users to serve the galaxy. That is Vader's path to redemption. Vader agrees, but he tells Luke to call him Anakin, and he will be honored to serve alongside his son in restoring the galaxy. Over the following days, together they come up with a new philosophy of the Jedi Order. The Order will focus on balance, not suppression, as they rejected the idea that emotions must be severed. Fear, love, anger, and grief are to be acknowledged and not denied. Jedi must master their feelings, not pretend they don't exist. Attachments will not be forbidden. They will allow love, family, and marriage. They will learn through experience and are encouraged to question Luke and Anakin, learn from mistakes, and ultimately there is no rigid dogma. The Force is living and not institutional. The Force isn't owned by the Jedi, but will teach that the Force speaks differently to different people, and the Jedi were servants of life, not guardians of an institution. Redemption is always possible, and they will never turn their backs on a member who has fallen to the dark side. They call the Order their Jedi Praxium and decide to set up on Yavin 4 in the Massassi temples, built by the Sith long before the Empire, and Luke believe confronting lingering darkness, not avoiding it, was essential to balance. However, Luke knew Anakin wouldn't be accepted how he was, not in name and in appearance, and they had to change that. They went on a journey to Vader's fortress on Mustafar, and they worked with the droids there to change his suit. His armor intentionally held him back, causing him to be in constant pain, and weakened him, as well as it being a psychological prison because he was seen like a walking coffin. They successfully changed his armor so it looked more like a suit and changed his helmet to a neutral look rather than the menacing helmet of Vader. They changed it from black to white and reduced the height of his robotic legs so it now represented how tall Anakin originally was. He felt different after the change, as if the physical transformation represented his psychological transformation from dark to light. They needed to think of a new name for him and settled on Erron. However, Luke would still call him Anakin in secret. They begin their order and start taking in Force sensitives from around the galaxy. There were a lot of older Force sensitives because there were no Jedi during the time of the Empire, but the Praxium had no age limit, so they took them all in. Many joined: Mara Jade, former Imperial assassin; Corran Hon, X-Wing pilot; Ahsoka Tano; Kyle Katarn, former stormtrooper, and many more. The Jedi acted independently to the New Republic and spent most of their time resolving smaller conflicts, including mediating disagreements between settlers and native populations, resolving trade disagreements before they turned violent, dealing with pirate crime syndicates, overall helping the galaxy transform from the Empire to the New Order. Anakin wanted so badly to meet Leia, his daughter. However, Luke told him not yet, as he feared she would not accept him and would have to prove him a changed man through his actions. The Jedi Praxium acted like this for 10 years. Luke and Erron, aka Anakin, leading the new Jedi Order to serve the people of the galaxy, and they now had over 100 members. Around 5 years in, Luke finally told Leia that Vader had survived. Initially she was furious and couldn't believe Luke was lying to everyone, including her, about Vader, that he should be rotting in a cell for the rest of his life. But Luke told her the truth, how he turned on Palpatine in the end, and without Vader, Palpatine and the Empire would still be alive. Leia could see it in Luke's eyes, the determination, the love and desire to have Anakin as his father, but Leia was not ready to meet him, not yet. Leia sees the good that Luke's Jedi Praxium is doing, and in time, her opinion might change. Meanwhile, the New Republic had established control around the galaxy. Mon Mothma started as Chancellor, but her term has expired and is now replaced by Leia Organa. There were some issues early on in establishing control. However, they had successfully restored civil liberties and defeated the Imperial Remnant. However, little did they know, 10 years after Palpatine's defeat, the new threat had arrived in the galaxy. But they did not arrive suddenly. They had been observing the galaxy for years, testing the New Republic's defenses and studying the Force. The galaxy was being measured long before it was attacked. Initial encounters were so small they were dismissed. The New Republic lost patrol ships, recovered unknown biotech debris, and encountered with ships that didn't register properly on sensors. This was of course the Yuzong Vong. They were from a distant galaxy, a complete organic species with organic-based technology, and ultimately immune to the Force. They were observing the galaxy and Jedi for years, and ultimately decided it was time to attack. The real invasion began with the destruction of Cernpatal. They came with their entire fleet out of hyperspace and attacked the planet, their control ship, using its gravitational well to manipulate and pull the planet's moon out of orbit and sent it flying into the world below. Billions died, and reports were sent back to the New Republic of the attack. Anakin and Luke felt it through the Force, and Leia contacted them immediately. Over the following days, the New Republic attempted to gather intel. Leia told them that there were reports that the Vong had gathered outside Tatooine, and Luke, Anakin, Mara and Ahsoka went to investigate. They came out of hyperspace, on the edge of the system, to find a patrol ship lurking there. They raided the ship, and in this moment, Luke realized why the Vong were going to be a terrifying issue. The Yuzong Vong do not exist in the Force. They felt like a void. Precognition was unreliable, and Jedi intuition could not guide them. They captured the ship, killed the Vong inside, and took it back to Coruscant to present to the New Republic. However, what the Vong were doing on Tatooine shocked everyone. With their technology, they terraformed the planet, destroying all man-made technology, and turned the planet into one similar to their homeworld, Yuzhang-Ta. Aaron and Luke met with the New Republic to discuss the Vong. However, they were also meeting with another potential ally. The Chiss and the leader of the Ascendancy, Saganu, had come to Coruscant to speak with them. They gathered in a room, and Saganu told them all what the Chiss knew about the Yuzhong Vong. The Vong were specialized in organic warfare, altering their bodies for armor and defense. Luke asked about them being cut off from the Force, and Saganu told them the history they had captured from one of their ships, that the Vong were from a distant galaxy, their home planet, Yuzhang-Ta, and they were severed from the Force by their own living planet because they had abused it. Their arrival in this galaxy wasn't invasion, it was exile. They didn't come to conquer for territory, but for ideology. They were religious zealots, believing pain was purity, technology was the devil, and ultimately that the Force is a false god, and the galaxy must be reshaped through suffering. Saganu proposes an alliance between the New Republic and Chiss, and of course Leia agrees, and Luke states that the Jedi will fight in the war, but they will not be generals or commanders. They will not repeat the same mistakes of the Clone War. All-out war erupted around the galaxy as the New Republic fought against the Yuzhong Vong. Luke taught the members of his order that the Force was on their side, and the Vong were outside of the Force's normal expression. The Jedi must adapt and come from a different angle. They would fight, but not lead the New Republic. They took early losses, the New Republic having to adapt to the Vong's new weaponry, their organic technology proving difficult to counter, but they adapted and learned to understand their attack style. The Vong hated mechanical creations and terraformed a lot of planets they conquered and set up their assaults from their home base, Tatooine, now Yuzhang-Ta. The New Republic and Chiss took early losses because they fought the Vong as if they were the Empire. However, the Vong used living ships, immune to standard targeting, absorbed and deflected blaster fire with their crab armor, deployed biotech weapons that could adapt mid-battle, and considered casualties as holy offerings, not losses. The New Republic adjusted by developing weapon frequency modulation to overwhelm their living armor and force the Vong to defend the territory they had stolen rather than continue to advance forward. The Jedi initially believed the Vong did not exist in the Force, leaving them blind and vulnerable. However, Anakin and Luke realized something subtle, but overall changed how they thought towards the Vong. They still interacted with the Force, however, indirectly. Living systems around them could be sensed, and the Force was wounded around the Vong's presence. So instead of trying to sense the enemy, they could sense the damage the enemy caused. The war continued, trillions dead, and the New Republic were at a loss on how to defeat them. One day on the New Republic dreadnought, Luke asked Anakin for his input on how they could defeat the Vong. Anakin paused. For a few weeks now, he was thinking there might be a way they could defeat the Vong. However, he was scared of where it could take them. But the galaxy was desperate, and he told Luke he knows of a device. However, its use will be dangerous and potentially put him back on the tether between the dark and light sides of the Force. He told Luke that the Vong relied heavily upon gravity manipulation, planetary scale devastation, and living world chips, and there were rumors of something that could do the same, only whispers in the history books, something Sidious looked for but could never find. Centerpoint Station. Luke had never heard of it and asked Vader what it was. He told Luke it's a massive ancient space station, rumored to be located in the deep core, originally built by an ancient civilization, the Rakadan, alongside the Celestials, whom he personally met on Mortis. It's a Force-amplified gravity weapon that can manipulate gravity wells, shift planetary orbits, and create artificial hyperspace disruptions. If they found the device, they could use it to defeat the Vong. Luke liked the idea, but it came with risks, as in the wrong hands. Someone could use it to take over the galaxy. Rumor was that it was hidden in the Corellian system, so Anakin and Luke board a ship to go there immediately. They drift into the dead of space and think about how they could find it. Anakin had told Luke, "You don't find Centerpoint Station, it finds you." They meditate in the Force, trying to reach out and connect with Centerpoint's disruptions in the cosmic Force. Luke relaxed with his eyes closed and let the Force guide his hands on the Navy computer. They flew for about 5 minutes until they both felt it in the Force. They had arrived at Centerpoint Station. They boarded the space station and walked through its ancient halls. If this was man-built, it would take thousands to operate, but this station was commanded by the Force. They each boarded a piloting station and took the Centerpoint to Coruscant. They orbited the planet whilst they went to the surface to discuss the station with the New Republic leaders. Sagani was there and stated that Centerpoint could win them the war, but others like Admiral Akbar stated that the station's use is inhumane. There is no precise off switch, and one mistake could shove planets out of orbit, trigger stars to go supernova, and collapse hyperspace lanes. One miscalculation, and Centerpoint could erase entire star systems unintentionally and kill billions by accident. Who would bear that responsibility? Anakin, or as everyone knew him as Aaron, stepped forward and told them all he would do it. Everyone looks at him. No one in the room knows he was Vader, and for the first time ever, Leia looks at her father. Luke turns to Aaron and tells him he can't. That much destruction could send him over to the dark side, but Aaron proclaims he's the only one who can do it, who can bear the responsibility and reject the consequences of the dark side. Luke knows what he means. Because Anakin spent 20 years as Vader, he could reject the dark side once he uses Centerpoint because he has experienced the dark side before. However, that is not guaranteed, but Luke knows Vader is the only one who can do it. Leia states that Aaron will pilot Centerpoint Station. However, after they are victorious, the station must be destroyed. They gear up for a final assault against the Yuzong Vong. The Chiss group up with the New Republic fleet, and they travel through hyperspace to exit at Tatooine, or Yuzang Ta, the base of the Yuzong Vong. The Yuzong Vong lead, Omni, was on their command world ship. As he was informed, the Republic had began their invasion and commanded his fleet to attack. The space erupted into all-out war. The New Republic bombers began their sequences, while the Vong activated their gravity wells, attempting to disrupt the Republic's attack route. However, whilst the battle was unfolding, Centerpoint Station came out of hyperspace, hidden behind an asteroid belt. Anakin was charging up and coordinated the route of his attack. The station's gravity well projector had seized the asteroid belt and grouped it together. Anakin fires, which sends the entire asteroid belt towards the Vong fleet. He watched as it goes soaring through space, but midway through, Omni realizes what's happening and activates his own gravity gun to change the trajectory of the asteroid belt. But it was too late, and the asteroid belt connected with half of the Vong's forces, wiping them out in an instant. However, the attack was meant to take them all out, and Omni saved half of his forces. He sent a command to the remainder of his fleet: attack Centerpoint Station. After he fired the station, Anakin felt it. He had killed billions of beings in one strike, and it almost consumed him. The death, the genocide, it was getting to him. He felt the dark side creep back into him for the first time in 10 years. But he rejected it and continued powering up again. The Vong's faster fighters reached Centerpoint and they boarded the station. Anakin was almost there, calculating his trajectory of the next attack, and will target Yuzang Ta instead of the Vong fleet. As he charges, he feels the dark side come back again in anticipation of his next slaughter. It wants to take over, consume him whole, and return him to Vader. He almost lets the dark side in. That would be the easy move. However, in the last moment, he rejects it. For the last 10 years, he has been journeying to become the man his daughter Leia would accept, and could never feel the dark side again, not for her. He looks up from his console and sees the Yuzong Vong have entered the command center and are rushing towards him. The time is now, and he fires Centerpoint Station. Instead of using the asteroid belt, he uses Tatooine's former moon and sends it crashing into Yuzang Ta. In an almighty roar, the moon crashes on the surface, splitting the planet in two. The eruption sent parts of the planet flying into space, taking out the rest of the Yuzong Vong ships, and what was once Mos Eisley went crashing into the command world ship, destroying the leader Omni. With this, the battle was over, and the Republic and Chiss took out the rest of the Vong's scattered forces, and with this victory, they had won the war. Luke goes to Centerpoint to group up with his father. He rushed through the halls to the command center, and he couldn't believe what he saw. Yuzong Vong dead and scattered throughout the stations, and at the end lay his father, Anakin, dead. with a Vong amphistaff plunged through his chest. Luke rushed forward and held his father as tears ran down his face. He was successful. He had defeated the Vong and saved the galaxy, just like he had 10 years ago. His father truly was the chosen one, and he sensed no trace of the dark side in him, and this gave Luke closure. In the end, his father had rejected the dark side once more. He took his body off Centerpoint, and as he told Leia he would, set the station to self-destruct. Luke left as Centerpoint blew up in the distance, and he returned to the Jedi's forces. Meanwhile, around the galaxy, the New Republic take out the remainder of the Vong's forces as they celebrate around the galaxy. The Jedi are thanked for their help in the war, and the Chiss and Republic have entered an alliance and partnership that will extend past this wartime into the future. Luke takes Anakin's body back to Yavin 4 beneath the Massassi temples, and he lays his father to rest close to the heart of the Praxium they had built together. A stone statue is erected, not of Vader, not of Aaron, but of Anakin Skywalker, the representation of how no one is truly gone. There is redemption, and Anakin has no doubt redeemed himself. In these past 10 years, he has defeated Palpatine, helped him reconstruct the Jedi Order, and defeated the Yuzong Vong, the greatest threat the galaxy has ever faced. He thanked his father for all he had taught him about life and the Force, for the Jedi Praxium would not be what it was without him. Leia came to visit on Yavin 4, and they talked about their father. Luke told her of his heroics, how he found him on Centerpoint Station, and how once again in the end, he had rejected the dark side. Leia admitted that she forgives Vader and Anakin. He truly had redeemed himself, and only wished she had told him to his face. Luke tells Leia he's happy to hear it, and he tells her he'll give them a moment alone together. Leia looks confused, watching Luke leave as she felt it. A warmth behind her, a presence she had never known, but somehow always missed. Leia turned, and there he was, the Force ghost of Anakin Skywalker, smiling at his daughter Leia. He did not speak, he didn't need to, as Leia broke down, and for the first time, father and daughter stood together, free of fear, free of the past, and at last, the Force was in balance.
Thanks for watching everyone. For the entire month at Fantasy Sabers, we're giving away our new The Count Deluxe Saber for free, with every order over $299 USD. Otherwise, check out our wide range of replica sabers with premium build quality and a wide range of sound fonts and effects. Don't miss out, and I'll see you all next time.